Hey everyone, it's John here from Hot Take Hockey to talk about Marc Methot. So he is still a UFA, and being an unrestricted free agent for Methot is obviously really different as we're late in October as I make this video. And for Methot, back in January of 2019, he underwent surgery to repair a cartilage defect, and he wasn't really supposed to have that surgery to begin with. He was obviously in the past few years, he's had a couple injuries, whether it was his finger and then his knee, and he was trying to get back to the Stars last year. And then, of course, late in January, he made the decision to get surgery. So he hasn't played a game since early last year. And for Marc Methot, if he does get healthy, he could sign with an NHL team this year. So I'm going to go through 6 NHL teams that could use a guy like Marc Methot if he is healthy for the rest of this 2019-2020 season. So let's start off with the Florida Panthers. So for the Panthers, they don't have a lot of depth on the back end. Maybe Marc Methot could partner up with a guy like Ekblad or a guy like Keith Yandel. You have a second pair right now of Mike Matheson and Anton Strawman, who you signed in free agency. And Mackenzie Weegar is with Aaron Ekblad, and then you're potentially looking for a partner for Keith Yandel. So Marc Methot, there's that veteran presence there. Could he help a guy like Aaron Ekblad, or could he just come in and provide that depth? I think at the end of the day, you're expecting the contract for Marc Methot to be under $1 million for just 1 year. It's one of those situations where it is a risk for a team to sign past a year, and Marc Methot is older, so that's kind of the perspective for teams that will sign him. So next up, the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think for the Golden Knights, they don't have a lot of depth at all on the back end. And if you look at the Golden Knights lines right now, past guys like Shea Theodore, Brandon McNabb, they don't have a lot of well-known names on their back end. So you have a guy like John Merrill on the second pair. I don't think it would be a big deal just to take a risk on a guy like Marc Methot. So I don't think there would be a lot of ramifications just to sign a guy to a 1-year deal. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, they're trying to push again for a long playoff run. And a guy like Marc Methot has that experience to help them on the back end. So the Edmonton Oilers. So the Oilers are trying to always experiment with the defensive area on their team. And I think if you look at the Edmonton Oilers, whether it's a guy like Matthew Benning or Brandon Manning, Manning and Benning are 2 players I'd say the Oilers are kind of just done with, especially Manning, just with that contract. This is his last year, so it's not a huge deal. Will they trade Chris Russell finally? So I think Marc Methot is that kind of defenseman similar to Chris Russell, but in this sense, you're just kind of signing him, taking a risk on him, and it's under $1 million. So I think the Edmonton Oilers could be in on Marc Methot if he does return to the NHL. Okay, so the Toronto Maple Leafs. So this one's really interesting because if you look at the Leafs, they have depth on the back end, but they're still looking for that solid defensive guy to play with either they're one of their younger players or Morgan Rielly. And the experiment with Cody Ceci just hasn't worked out with Morgan Rielly. If Marc Methot got back to close to what he once was, maybe like even in his early 30s, maybe Marc Methot could even play with Morgan Rielly. Maybe that is a hot take. Maybe it has to be Cody Ceci there, but I really just don't see a perspective in where you can have Cody Ceci there going into the playoffs if he does continue to struggle. Maybe it's Travis Dermott that moves up, or maybe it's Travis Dermott with Marc Methot if the Leafs were to sign him. Okay, and the San Jose Sharks. So they lost a defensive guy like Justin Braun. They don't have the greatest depth. Maybe they bring in a guy like Marc Methot. They do have a veteran-heavy back end right now with guys like Brent Burns, Carlson, Vlasic, Brendan Dillon. So they have the veteran presence on that back end, but maybe Marc Methot just helps that case for a team that's expected to go back into the playoffs. And then finally, the Winnipeg Jets. So I think the Winnipeg Jets could actually be the team that needs a guy like Marc Methot the most. You're talking about Dustin Byfuglien. Will he return? You lost Tyler Myers. You lost Jacob Trouba. It would be a very good position to get a guy like Marc Methot. You even lost Kulikov for the short term for a personal leave. So Marc Methot, you're bringing in some depth. You're bringing a defensive guy. Could he play with a guy like Ville Heinola or another younger player on your team? At the end of the day, the Winnipeg Jets are thin on the back end, and if Marc Methot can get healthy, it's definitely a guy you could use. So thank you guys for watching this video. 6 teams I believe could target Marc Methot if he does want to return or can return to the NHL. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. drop a like. It does really show a lot of support, and it helps this video get out more on YouTube. So thank you. I hope to see you more on the channel. This was John from Hot Take Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.